Sometimes it's not what a man says, but how he acts in his most unguarded moments that reveals the depth of his love. According to Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, love isn't merely spoken. It is revealed unconsciously through moments of raw intimacy. It appears not in grand declarations, but in the way he holds you when the world falls silent, in the lingering of his gaze, or in the quiet rhythm of his breath aligning with yours. These are the places where his deepest truths begin to surface. But how do you know if it's truly love, not just desire? Jung's work on the unconscious mind points to 4 powerful signs, subtle, involuntary behaviors that only emerge when a man is profoundly, perhaps even unknowingly, in love. He taught that love is not simply an emotion. It is a psychic union, a fusion of souls where instinct rises to meet truth, and the barriers of the self begin to dissolve. When a man is emotionally bonded, his body and mind express feelings he may not yet be able to name. These behaviors are not conscious performances, they are unconscious acts of devotion. And if you know what to look for, they speak louder than words ever could. The first sign, deep eye contact during intimacy. There is something almost sacred about sustained eye contact in a moment of true connection. It goes beyond physical attraction, beyond touch, and reaches into the very core of emotional intimacy. Jung once called the eyes the windows to the soul, and for good reason. In his exploration of the unconscious, he recognized the gaze as one of the few expressions that cannot be easily controlled or manipulated. Words can lie, but the eyes, they reveal truths even the mind may not yet accept. When a man holds your gaze during intimacy, it is more than just passion. It is an unspoken confession. In that moment, he is not just looking at you, he is allowing himself to be seen. And that, Jung would argue, is one of the rarest and most profound forms of surrender. This level of eye contact is not common. It requires a depth of emotional presence that many are taught to withhold. In the world where men are often conditioned to separate sex from emotion, to perform rather than connect, intimacy can easily become a detached physical act. But love changes something. It softens him. It silences the old scripts. His need for connection begins to override the habits of distance. And his gaze lingers not because he is merely exposed, but because he is emotionally bare, vulnerable, present. This is where love begins to speak, not in words, but in the silent language of the soul. Jung would call this thema the emergence of the inner feminine. It is the part of a man's psyche that longs not just for connection, but for emotional depth and union. In such moments, the eyes cease to be mere physical features. They become portals, bridges between souls. Avoiding eye contact speaks its own truth. A man who looks away in intimacy may still feel desire, even affection. But more often than not, he carries emotional barriers. Vulnerability terrifies him. He fears being seen, not just looked at, but truly seen. Perhaps he's guarding a tender part of himself he has yet to face. In Jungian terms, this reflects unresolved shadows, unhealed wounds, ancient fears. The eyes, unlike words, do not lie. That's why so many avoid them to preserve control, to hide what they aren't ready to reveal. But when a man holds your gaze steady, open, unguarded, it says everything. It means he trusts you, not just with his body, but with his being. It's an offering of his raw, unpolished self, the man behind the mask. There's a reason lovers instinctively close their eyes when they kiss, only to open them again afterward, to confirm presence, to silently say, "I'm still here," entirely. That quiet reconnection is primitive, sacred. It's not a gesture, it's a truth. This is why deep eye contact is the first and perhaps most profound sign of real emotional connection. It cannot be forced. It isn't performative. It's an involuntary act of presence. A moment when two people drop every defense and simply see one another. Love doesn't shout. It island no masks, no pretenses. Just two souls meeting in silence and truth. The second sign, he prioritizes your pleasure above his own. In Jungian psychology, Intimacy is the meeting of opposites, the sacred merging of two distinct selves into something greater. This conjunctio, the alchemical union, transcends the physical. It is soul meeting soul, in shared surrender. When a man is truly in love, the way he gives pleasure reflects it. Lust is self-serving. It seeks release. But love, real love, seeks connection. When he places your joy above his own, it isn't mere kindness. It's reverence, a silent vow, an act of devotion that says, your happiness is my happiness. It's an unconscious declaration of devotion, a message spoken without words. Your happiness is my happiness. According to Jung, the shadow, those repressed parts of our psyche, often governs our most primitive impulses, including selfish desire. But love has the power to transcend that. A man in love doesn't delay his own pleasure out of obligation or politeness. He delays it because giving is the pleasure. This is a sacred union of masculine and feminine energies. Drive, meeting, receptivity. Action softening into presence. When they merge, sex becomes more than physical, it becomes sacred. You'll see it in the way he watches your responses, the way he remembers what brings you joy. His fulfillment comes through yours. His care isn't rehearsed or strategic. It's instinctual, as if your body were an extension of his own. In contrast, lust takes. It consumes. It seeks satisfaction without consideration. But love, real love, nourishes. A man driven by lust will often remain at the surface. A man moved by love is undone by you. Jung would call this transformation thema, the awakening of the inner feminine. It's this emerging anima that guides him toward empathy, tenderness, and the desire to truly merge not just bodies, but souls. And it's the smallest gestures that reveal the deepest truth. The way he holds you afterward, the sincerity behind a whispered, "Was that good for you?" These moments speak louder than any grand declaration. Because this selflessness doesn't stop at the bedroom door. Jung saw relationships as mirrors reflecting what we must face and ultimately heal within ourselves. A man who gives freely in intimacy is often one who has already wrestled with his insecurities, who has made peace with his own need for control and emerged willing to give, not take. That kind of vulnerability is the essence of real love. Not perfection, but presence. When he puts your pleasure first, he's saying with his body what words so rarely express. You are sacred to me. This is the fingerprint of love. It can't be faked. It doesn't perform. It's simply island, effortless, genuine. A devotion that reaches beyond the surface, deep into the soul. And, according to Jung, that is where true transformation begins. The third sign, affection and emotional openness after intimacy. The moments after reveal more about a man's love than the act itself ever could. Jung understood that physical closeness has the power to dissolve our defenses. In those quiet moments after passion, the ego softens, the unconscious rises, and we are, for a brief moment, stripped bare, not just physically, but emotionally. When the man is truly in love, sex becomes a doorway to emotional nakedness. It's not just about climax, it's about connection. That's why post-intimacy behavior speaks volumes. The way he holds you, the softness in his voice, the things he says, and the truths he lets slip without realizing. That vulnerability, that openness is not performance, it's presence. It's love revealed not in fireworks, but in quiet, unguarded moments. These are not conscious choices, but unconscious revelations, clues to how he truly sees you. Jung's concept of the shadow, those hidden, often repressed parts of the psyche, helps explain why so many men struggle with vulnerability. From an early age, society teaches them that strength means stoicism, that emotional openness is weakness, and that affection, especially after sex, somehow compromises masculinity. But when a man loves deeply, that conditioning begins to crumble. His shadow, the wounded, sensitive self he usually keeps buried, starts to rise uninvited and unguarded. In those quiet moments after intimacy, he might pull you closer instead of turning away. He might share a childhood memory or simply rest his forehead against yours in wordless communion. These gestures are not calculated. They are the psyche's rebelling against performance. They are the body and soul revealing, without effort or intent, that he associates you with safety, not just satisfaction. That he trusts you not just with his desire, but with his self. This post-sex vulnerability serves a vital psychological function. Jung believed that true intimacy requires integration, the merging of both light and shadow, of ego and unconscious, in relationship with another. When a man remains emotionally present after sex, he is, in essence, showing you his full humanity. His absent-minded hand brushing your hair, the sudden sharing of a private thought, these are not tactics, they are truths. His defenses have momentarily fallen away, and what remains is not performance, but presence. There is no seduction here, no mask, only the unfiltered reality of his attachment to you. Contrast this with the man who withdraws the moment after climax. That retreat may speak not of rejection, but of protection. It is a shadow's grip still too tight, still too afraid. Emotional distance becomes armor, vulnerability a threat. And so, instead of leaning in, he disappears, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally, leaving behind a silence where connection could have deepened. While not always a sign of emotional absence, post-intimacy withdrawal often suggests that his connection remains primarily physical. The ego rebuilds its walls swiftly, reasserting control where, moments before, there was surrender. But when the man lingers, when he treats the afterglow not as an intermission, but as something sacred, he reveals something far deeper. What Jung called the transcendent function is at work. The psyche's ability to bridge opposites, to dissolve the boundary between self and other through love. Ultimately, post-sex affection is love's most honest language. It's in these quiet, breast softened moments when the body is sated and the mind unguarded that the heart speaks loudest. A man who remains present here isn't merely sharing his bed, he's sharing his inner world. And that, according to Jung, is the clearest sign that what he feels transcends desire. It is not just attraction, it is recognition, a meeting of souls. Number 4, synchronized movements and unconscious mirroring. In the silent language of lovers, the most profound truths are spoken not with words, but with a subtle choreography of two bodies moving in harmony. Jung's theory of the collective unconscious, that vast, shared reservoir of archetypal memory, offers insight into why lovers often fall into spontaneous synchronization. When his breathing aligns with yours, when your limbs entangle effortlessly, when a glance or a touch says what paragraphs never could, this is not coincidence. This is biological poetry. These moments are evidence that your connection has slipped beneath the surface of thought and into instinct, into the realm where the body remembers what the mind is too slow to grasp. Love, in its most surrendered form, overrides conscious control. Jung described this phenomenon as participation mystique, a primordial state of emotional unity in which the boundary between self and other momentarily disappears. In everyday life, we maintain distance. We regulate touch. We control expression. But in love, these barriers soften. When a man is emotionally open, his nervous system begins to resonate with yours. Science now calls this limbic synchrony a physiological attunement that mirrors Jung's spiritual insight. His heartbeat subtly adjusts to yours. His gestures echo yours not in mimicry, but in communion. This is the body's quiet declaration of what the conscious mind may still be afraid to admit. We are no longer separate. You notice this most clearly in stillness. Lying together in the hush of afterglow, you may shift positions at the same moment. Sigh in rhythm, breathe as one. These micro movements, small and unplanned, are not trivial, they are profound. They reveal a connection operating on a level deeper than social ritual. It is a dance coded into our very DNA. Jung would argue that what you're witnessing is the archetype of the divine couple manifesting in real time. A timeless myth played out not in legend, but in the intimacy of breath shared and silence held. Two souls not just in love but in union. That ancient symbol of wholeness found in myths across cultures lives on in the language of the body. In these sacred moments of unconscious synchronization, your bodies are not simply touching. They are remembering what the mind may have long forgotten. That love, in its highest form, is not just emotion, it is unity. Contrast this with the stiff, self-conscious movements of casual encounters. In the absence of emotional depth, the body remains guarded. Movements are measured, deliberate, each person keenly aware of their separateness. But when love is present, that vigilance dissolves. His hand finds the small of your back exactly when you need support. Your head fits into the curve of his shoulder as though that space was made for you. This effortless alignment is not coincidence. It is a physical manifestation of what Jung called enantiodromia, the innate tendency of opposing forces to move toward one another, seeking balance and wholeness. Masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious, self and other. In this sacred dance, opposites don't clash, they complete. What makes these unconscious movements so profoundly intimate is their utter authenticity. Unlike spoken words, which can be edited, rehearsed, or restrained, the body tells only the truth. It cannot perform love. It can only live it. When his body moves in quiet harmony with yours, it is the psyche's way of saying, you are not other, but extension, not object, but home. In these wordless moments, Jung's theories cease to be abstract ideas. They become embodied truth, the alchemy of connection two beings dissolving into one, if only for a breath reveals something sacred. That, in real love, we don't just find another, we return to the whole we've always belonged to. This is why synchronized movement remains love's most ancient and sacred dance, not choreographed by thought or intent, but by the timeless wisdom of the unconscious mind. A ritual as old as breath, as instinctive as touch. Carl Jung, visionary, mystic, and pioneer of the soul, understood that love is far more than a fleeting emotion or a cultural construct. It is a psychological event of great magnitude, a collision of the conscious and unconscious, a call toward wholeness, a mirror in which we are invited to meet not only another but ourselves. At the heart of Jung's theory lies the concept of the anima and animus, the hidden feminine and masculine aspects that live within each of us. According to Jung, every man carries within him an inner feminine image, shaped by his experiences, expectations, memories, and the cultural ties he's grown up in. When he falls deeply in love, he is not merely drawn to a woman. He is encountering a reflection of his own soul. This is why the right woman doesn't just feel exciting. She feels familiar, as though she's always been there, waiting within him. The stronger the emotional pull, the more his anima aligns with her essence, creating an almost mystical sense of recognition. It's why certain loves feel fated, as if they were written in the stars, because in a way, they were inscribed in his psyche long before they ever met. But this projection is only the beginning. In Jung's view, real intimacy asks for far more than romantic attraction. It requires the courage to lay down the masks we wear in daily life. Most men have been conditioned to suppress their softness, to armor vulnerability beneath stoicism, silence, and strength. Yet when a man is truly in love, something begins to shift. The unconscious mind, vast, instinctive, and ancient, begins to override his defenses. He doesn't just want to be close. He needs it at the primal level, not for possession, but for communion. And you'll notice it in the subtle yet unmistakable changes in his presence. His gaze lingers longer. His touch grows more tender. His walls don't collapse all at once, but you'll feel them begin to lower. Because when love touches the deeper layers of the psyche, it awakens what Jung believed to be the soul's longing, to become whole, not through domination or dependence, but through union, the meeting of opposites, the healing of what was divided. He might begin to share childhood memories unprompted, or his body language may soften in ways he can't control. These aren't calculated choices. They are involuntary serenades, quiet offerings from the unconscious, revealing the depth of his connection. Jung believed the unconscious speaks most clearly in moments of intimacy, not just through words, but through symbols, sensations, and instinctive actions. Think of how lovers synchronize their breathing, or how a man's touch becomes almost reverent when his heart is fully engaged. These aren't mere romantic gestures. They are expressions of the unconscious mind at work, gently binding two souls together in ways language never could. In Jungian psychology, love is a form of alchemy. It transforms the raw material of attraction into the gold of emotional and spiritual union. And when a man is truly in love, his unconscious reveals it in the most beautiful, involuntary ways. So, how does this hidden psychology show itself in the bedroom? The answer lies in four powerful, deeply intimate behaviors. Acts so instinctual, so revealing. They bypass the rational mind entirely. These aren't techniques you can fake or memorize from a book. They are the pure, unfiltered language of the heart. Let's revisit the four signs of unconscious devotion. Deep eye contact, not just looking, but seeing. A gaze that doesn't waver, because it's not just observing your body, it's recognizing your soul. Selfless giving, when your pleasure becomes his, and giving is no longer a task but a need. Post-intimacy vulnerability, the tenderness that emerges after the passion, when walls fall and truths surface. Synchronized physical and emotional rhythm, when your bodies move as one, unconsciously mirroring emerging evidence of love that lives in the nervous system, not just the mind. Together, these form a silent language, a language of devotion, presence, and soulful connection. They say what words cannot. They tell you, this is real, this is safe, this is love. Carl Jung's teachings remind us that love isn't just an emotion. It's a truth one that reveals itself in our most unguarded moments. It lives in the body, in the breath, in the gaze, when we're too raw to pretend, too open to hide. So ask yourself, do you recognize these signs in your relationship? Have you witnessed other unconscious gestures, small, silent moments that spoke of real love? We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this exploration of love through Jung's lens resonated with you, be sure to like and subscribe for more content rooted in depth psychology and emotional wisdom. And if you're curious to go even deeper, let us know. Would you like our next video to uncover Jung's hidden red flags in relationships? The subtle warning signs that a connection may not be as soulful or healthy as it appears? Until then, remember, the body never lies about love. Listen to what's felt beneath the surface, and you'll always know the truth.